Hello, all you beautiful samurai-loving people out there. This is Justin from the Den of Nerds. I am here with Dan, and we're going to be talking something today. Dan, what are we talking about?
Today we're talking about Samurai Jack Season 5. Episode 1 premiered last Saturday, and it was phenomenal. It was well worth the wait, I think. So now I think we can get into kind of the story of this, and I think we have like three main characters, and they each kind of go through, uh, some interactions. Not so much with each other yet, uh, but we start with Jack. What do you think of the first introductory scene, like the establishing shot here?
The establishing shot was absolutely glorious. We get to see an old enemy return, the giant mechanical bug monsters.
From the first
The
episode ever, I might add, which was a great kind of callback for the premiere of this season.
Absolutely, and then we get these three creatures running away from these bug monsters. It's never really explained why they're chasing them. Some really excellent use of animation there with them communicating with the little electricity between their antennae, even using like emojis and
That was
stuff.
adorable.
It
Yes.
was, yes, it was adorable. It was clear to the point. You don't have to worry about animating lips or anything like that. But then we get Jack coming in, and we get to see a Jack who basically is a ends justify the means sort of guy at this point. We're not seeing him using his general samurai fighting style that we've come to know him use for so long. Dude's on a motorcycle with giant spike tread wheels. He's firing guns. He's using this weird electric pole staff. Like this Jack fighting is very different from the Jack we've known for the
It's
past four seasons.
someone saw Mad Max on this team. Fury Road. I have to say that. It just seems so inspired by that in a way. I get that the like plagued by the past protagonist trope is not original to that, but if you take the armor, the sweet vehicle, he opens with a missile launcher. That was nuts. And then you go right into this haunted by the past, like he literally hallucinates about his mother and father and whatnot in like the next scene, and that's so right. Do you see that parallel?
Can we talk about how horrifying that scene was with the lake of all of the people that his father ruled over as they're all just trying to stay afloat as they're floating down the river and dying? That was scary. That was horrifying. That isn't something you would have been able to see if the show wasn't on Adult Swim the way it is right now.
That was the
That was,
first, I think, of
yeah.
the three big Adult Swim moments for me. Keep going.
Yeah, we got that. His parents just in general, he's going on this huge guilt trip. He feels like he's failed them. We get that scene with his father in the fire where it looks like he's being crucified and he's just screaming at Jack, eventually turning into this giant demon. The forest actually gets set on fire.
Yes, and I want to just point out the not only was that scene fantastic in its animation and just like its execution, but its placement I thought was perfect because you have the scene in the river where the water transforms into like a flow of corpses and regret. And then Jack's response is like he runs away, he gets out of there. And you think, oh, okay, he ran away, this will come up again sometime, like maybe next episode, whatever. And then immediately, the next scene, he can't get a break. He immediately goes back into this, this hallucination. And at that point, when the forest catches on fire, you have to believe that he is dashing around, frantically spreading these coals.
Yeah, he's just absolutely unhinged at this point. Absolute chaos going on in Jack's head. And yeah, then it really comes to an apex when we get to the next scene and he is fighting that assassin.
Yes. Okay, so this is probably I'm gonna go to this character second, and so we'll talk about Scaramouche, who I looked this up by the way was the number one kind of trending term from this episode. People were crazy about this guy. They wanted to hear more about it. My first impression was that he is such a Samurai Jack villain. You think, like, compared to some other contemporary shows right now, it's just so nutty. It was like, it was almost too zany. But if you compare it to like the backwater crocodile sheriff who talked in like complete jargon, biggity boppity, blam 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 blam. You know what I mean? Like these crazy eccentric enemies that Jack fights, it totally fit into that trope. Do you agree?
Absolutely. We are going to be seeing so many excellent villains coming into the fold in this episode. Jack's had so many crazy zany villains. They really, really think outside the box when they do it. That episode where Jack's in the desert and he's with that lady warrior and they travel around and then at the end of everything it's like, hey, surprise, I'm Aku.
The whole time.
The
Oh,
whole
that
time.
episode
Like,
is amazing. If this is your first experience with Samurai Jack, I highly recommend you find a way to go back and watch the first 4 seasons. It's well worth your time. It's just as good as this, and it'll really set you up to meet these characters again. Scaramouche the assassin. He reveals that he's Aku's favorite assassin.
Jack just is not ready for any of this nonsense and destroys the phone, and then we get to see the first instance of Scaramouche actually fighting,
That's like
which is
kunai,
fighting
weapon
style.
number 6, I think. Weapon number 6.
Yeah, he's using so many different weapons, and then Scaramouche just, he draws his sword. We think there's going to be this epic sword fight. His sword flies down on the ground, and then we see him jump up and pull out this flute, and he just starts playing this flute as his sword starts flying around and fighting Jack on its own. How'd you
Oh,
feel about that?
you actually skipped over the flute animating the ruins into a stone golem.
That too, that too.
His opening move is summoning this like stone titan with the pillars of a fallen temple, and frankly, Jack just obliterates it. That's the kind of thing
Yes.
Jack specializes in, is killing giant kaiju-esque monsters. He even the scene where he replaces the head, just more of that like. Um, Again, if you're not familiar with Jack, it really tells. It uses a lot of these kind of villain of the week episodes to kind of tell the story with the scenes in between. I've heard people almost refer to seasons of Samurai Jack as like books of poems. Like each episode is not necessarily the next chapter in a story, but the next kind of poem in a series of episodes that are spiritually linked together. Do you think that's
Absolutely.
a little too flowery, or would you agree with that?
Oh, no, no, definitely. The reason Jack does that and the reason Jack itself is just such a well-made show is because that kind of format not only makes it so, people who are really invested in this show can just go in there and, have this huge epic story to follow around and enjoy, but also the uninitiated can just jump into any episode that is shown at all and enjoy it.
The only word I can come up with it is scatting. He's scatting a little bit, like beep it bop boop, and
Oh yeah, after Jack destroys the flute,
destroys the
just
flute.
like, you can't stop the music, baby.
The voice is so good. When I first heard the voice, I was like, no way, he's not serious. And then he kept doing it. I was like, this is perfect for a Samurai Jack villain. I'm gonna remember this guy. So the scatting causes his saber to fly around, and then we get this invisible sword fight trope that we see. We see this quite a bit, the disembodied sword fighting, while the other, the owner of the sword either fights along or kind of just stands off to the sidelines. And I think they did a pretty good job of this. Jack incorporates his various weapons again. But then we move on to, I think, the most interesting weapon in the fight, which is the tuning fork dagger.
Yes.
What'd you think of that?
The tuning fork dagger was an absolutely wonderful weapon. I couldn't believe my eyes when Jack hits it, and then the dagger makes a noise, and his dagger just shatters.
I wasn't
That
expecting that.
that was an absurd moment, but the way Jack decides to deal with the tuning fork dagger after that is equally amazing. He immediately is able to analyze the weapon. We get to tell that Jack is a master of combat in this moment when Jack hits the weapon and Scaramouche is like, oh, well, it's over now, baby. And you can tell Jack's holding his dagger and it's about to explode. And then Jack is able to time it perfectly where he throws the dagger and it explodes right in Scaramouche's face.
Really cool is Jack picks up that tuning fork dagger and puts it into his dagger sheath. And now we have to ask ourselves, is this dagger going to come up And when is it going to come up? Is it going to be next episode? Is this a new go-to for Jack? Is this going to be a one of he's going to stab it into the first throwaway robot we see in the next episode and gets rid of it? Who knows? Any
I think
speculation?
he's absolutely going to be using this weapon. Since it's been established that Jack lost his magic sword, it fell into some sort of pit. We are going to be seeing Jack relying on essentially loot drops. He's going to be need to picking up weapons to survive. And I think this tuning fork dagger is going to become a key weapon in his repertoire in all of the episodes going forward.
This cult of the Daughters of Aku. Um, we get to see these masked figures, almost like matron figures, in this bizarre birthing ritual, which absolutely was another one of those Adult Swim moments. Did you think something along those lines?
Oh, absolutely. You wouldn't have been able to see that on regular Cartoon Network. Absolutely
It was
not.
jarring.
You talk more about these actual daughters, and what was the name of the one daughter that we got a lot of focus on?
Her name was Ashi.
Ashi, yes.
And we first notice she comes into focus when they're kind of doing like a group fight against just like a big kind of guard characters punching a bunch of children, essentially. And she stumbles over to the edge of the fighting area, and out of a crack in the stone, she catches a glimpse of freedom, essentially. It's a giant valley with forest. There's a sun shining through the clouds. It's absolutely beautiful. And this kind of like sparkles in her eye. But and then you're led to believe kind of, oh, this is the first kind of seed of good being planted in this character. Did you immediately think, okay, future protagonist in the works when you saw that?
Yeah, I think that we are going to be seeing maybe some sort of turn from Ashi where she turns against the Daughters of Aku at some point. But we're not going to see that immediately because immediately after she sees that scene, the matron turns it to her advantage and says, "Isn't it beautiful, everything our Lord Aku has created for us? That's why you need to get back to your training because the samurai is out there destroying it all." And then she just throws her back into the ring and says, "Teach this one a lesson."
Yeah, that I feel like that immediately just kind of strengthens Ashi's resolve to fight for Aku. So there is going to be quite a bit of a shell of brainwashing to get through if we're going to see any good come from this new character. There's a big reveal that we know is confirmed and we're waiting for. The Scotsman, a fan favorite character from the first installment of Samurai Jack. Another great kind of iconic warrior character from the show. When do you think they're going to reveal him? It's confirmed he's going to be in this season. Do you think it's going to be soon, or are they going to wait for a mid-season treat? What are your thoughts?
Mid-season treat, definitely. A lot of people like doing that stuff in the mid-season. I think we're going to definitely see an older Scotsman. It's been 50 years. He's not going to be in prime fighting condition anymore. Or will he be, augmenting himself with cybernetics? I mean, the sky is the limit in Samurai Jack. But I think we're going to be seeing the Scotsman again, and that's going to be the Scotsman who is able to help snap Jack out of this funk that he seems to be in right now.
Oh, that's a great thought. Like right at the climactic kind of Jack's mental breaking point, the Scotsman is there to slap some fighting common sense into him. That sounds great. I didn't even think of that. Good idea.
Absolutely. We're going to be seeing that from the Scotsman. Maybe we'll even see, since Jack is picking up this treasure trove of weapons to help him fight Aku, maybe we'll get to see some, climactic bro moment where the Scotsman is like, "You need this more than me," and he gives Jack his claymore.
Oh my gosh, I didn't even think of that. But yeah, the Scotsman could help him forge a new sword. Absolutely.
You good?
So that's really interesting. All right, guys, that's our kind of review analysis of Samurai Jack, the new season 5, episode 1. We're going to do one of these every week as it comes out Saturdays on Toonami. If you have topics about it that you want us to talk about, leave that in the comments. Make sure you like this video, subscribe if you haven't already. I'm Anime Dan, talking to
Justin, right here on the Den of Nerds.